Good evening, everybody. Thanks for attending this virtual meeting of Planning Committee, Tuesday the 12th of January, our first meeting in 2021. So Happy New Year to those people I haven't seen already. For anybody who doesn't know me, my name's Councillor June Molyneux, Chair of the Committee. Councillor Chris Vance is Vice Chair. Also present are officers and councillors who will be asked to introduce themselves in a moment. Please note this is a virtual meeting and a recording will be available online following the meeting. For ease, a pack's been prepared which contains the report, plans, presentation slides and any addendum for each item to ensure everyone can easily follow the agenda. This is also available online. After officers have presented the report, I'll invite members to make any comments. When speaking, please reference the paragraph and page number to enable everyone to follow you. I'll repeat the motion before the vote's taken to ensure everyone's aware of what's being voted on, and I'll call on each member alphabetically to vote if necessary. If the technology fails, I'll adjourn the meeting for a few minutes to try and resolve the issue, and if it's not possible, a new date and time will be organised. Please, can I ask all members to confirm they can hear and speak before the meeting begins? I'll call each member out. Councillor Beaver?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Councillor Boardman?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Councillor Dalton?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Councillor France? Gordon?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Councillor G?
Good evening, Madam Chair.
Councillor Gray?
Good evening, Madam Chair.
Councillor Hargreaves?
Yes, Chair.
Councillor Hilton, I think we've had apologies for. Councillor Morwood? Councillor
Yes,
Morwood?
Chair.
Sorry. Councillor Whittam?
It's all right. I forgot to unmute.
Oh.
Yes. Good evening, Chair.
Good evening. Councillor Whitaker?
Yes, Chair.
Councillor France? Chris France.
I'm here.
Thank you. And we also have our officers, Adele, who's our service lead. Adele?
Yes, Chair, I'm here. Karen isn't on this call, but just
no,
to say,
I didn't think she would be.
I
Ian?
think our new director's joined the call as well. So if you want
Well,
to say
I was
hello
just
to
going
him as
to
well.
get that. Yeah. Ian?
Yes, I'm here, Chair.
Alex?
Yes, Chair.
Nina?
Yes, Chair.
And I'm told that Jonathan Nord, our new Director of Planning, has also joined us tonight. So welcome everybody.
Yes, Chair, I'm here. Thank you.
Nice to have you to join us. Apologies, Nina.
Yeah, we've not received any. Councillor Hilton is actually on the call.
Oh, he is on the call. Okay.
He's joined. Yeah.
Well, I didn't know, so sorry, Alex. Item 1, minutes of the meeting Tuesday, then 8th of December, pages 3 to 6 in your pack. Can somebody propose those, please?
I'll propose them, Chair.
Thanks.
Second, Chair.
Seconded, Chair. Gordon France.
Right, thank you. I think it was thirded as well. Anybody, if everybody's happy with those? Yes, nobody said they're not, so they're approved. Item 2, declarations of interest. Members are reminded of their responsibility to declare any pecuniary interest in respect of matters contained in the agenda. As this is a virtual meeting, if a member has a pecuniary interest, they're asked to leave the call completely rather than just mute their microphone for the item. The member can rejoin the call following the completion of the item in question. We've got just 2 items to be determined tonight, and we have no members of the public speaking, so I don't need to read all that out. So moving on, item 3A, the Oak Royal Golf and Country Club, Berry Lane, Withnell, pages 7 to 42, with an update on your addendum. Adele's going to present this item, and it's recommended that planning permission is granted subject to conditions. There's no registered speakers. Okay, Adele, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everybody.
Evening.
This application site is located in the Greenbelt off Berry Lane in West Withnell and comprises the Oak Royal Golf Course Hotel and Clubhouse building. The application, as originally submitted, proposed the conversion of the existing clubhouse and hotel building to create 9 apartments and the erection of a new building to house the golf clubhouse. However, following discussions with officers, the scheme has been amended by the applicant to remove this proposed new building because it's considered to be an appropriate development in the Greenbelt. The revised proposal includes the retention of the clubhouse within the existing building and the change of use of the hotel part of the building to create 8 apartments consisting of 2 4-bed apartments and 6 3-bed apartments. The reasons for the proposal are set out in more detail within the committee report within your papers, but essentially is due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic upon the hospitality sector and the hotel being no longer financially viable, and that the revenue from the sale of the apartments when converted would support the longevity of the golf business. Neighbour representations have been received from 2 individuals who have raised objections to the scheme on the grounds of highway safety and congestion and harm to the wildlife in the area and disturbance during construction work. There are no objections from any of the technical consultees, with LCC Highways having requested the parking scheme to be revised during the assessment process. Members will be aware that paragraph 146 of the National Planning Policy Framework allows for the reuse of buildings in the Greenbelt, providing that the buildings are of permanent and substantial construction and the changes would preserve the openness of the Greenbelt and not conflict with the purposes of including land within it. At local level, Policy HS9 of the Chorley Local Plan allows for the reuse of existing buildings in the Greenbelt, providing certain criteria are met, which includes the building being capable of conversion without more than 30% reconstruction and being capable of conversion without the need for additions or alterations, which would change its existing form and character. A full assessment of the scheme against this policy is provided within the committee report. The majority of the proposed changes would be internal, with exterior changes relating to window openings and the creation of dormer windows. It is not considered that in this instance the proposal would have a materially greater impact on the openness of the Greenbelt and the purposes including land in it, and therefore the proposal is considered to comply with National Greenbelt Policy and Policy HS9 of the Chorley Local Plan. There are no other technical details that cannot be overcome by the imposition of planning conditions, and these relate to cycle storage, choice of materials, and potential impacts during construction can be adequately controlled by such conditions. Accordingly, the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Adele. Over to you, members. Any comments? If you want to do so, can you raise your hand virtually, please? Who's that? I have to guess who Councillor A is. Councillor Beaver, Councillor France.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just unmute. Yeah, I've just unmuted myself.
Okay.
I'd just first of all like to acknowledge the representations and agree, which are at paragraph 6, and agree with the answer to them at 7, 8, and 9, and therefore I go along with the officer's recommendation and propose that this application be approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor France, Gordon France, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm pleased to see paragraphs 3 and 4 that the new building, the new clubhouse, has been removed from this application because there were some holiday lets built behind the hotel that became permanent dwellings. So there has been quite a bit of development on that side. Without the new clubhouse building, I'm quite happy to go along with this application. But I do think with an existing clubhouse to have built a new one, I would have had to object.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments from anybody? Let's see. Councillor Morwood.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick one, really. I think this is a good use of what is quite a fine-looking set of buildings, really. The hotel was well used in its time, but it's fallen on hard times due to the current COVID situation, and it would be a shame to see it just deteriorate. So I think it's a very good use of of the buildings. And in fact, there'll be little people will hardly notice when they look at it from the outside, because, as you say, most of it's to the inside. And as for the traffic, there were some objections to traffic. I mean, there was quite a substantial amount of traffic went on there when it was a hotel, and especially when it was in most weekends when it had various things happening, dances and weddings and all the rest of it. So it has proved in the past to be able to cope with that. So I'm happy to support the recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Councillor G.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just a question. I've no problem with it, but excuse me. I take it the golf course is still carrying on. Is that a profitable thing going now? Well, I know it's in the Greenbelt, and I wouldn't like to think that in years to come they will come back for building on the golf course, which they've tried in other parts of the borough. So that's just a point that I would, as it's in the Greenbelt, it will be protected, I presume. Thank you.
Okay.
Through you, Chair, do you want me to respond to that?
Yes,
just
please.
Briefly.
Could I just ask members to put their hands down if they've already spoken, unless they want to say something else? Councillor France, Councillor Beaver, Councillor Marwood.
It is down, Chair.
Oh, it's not on my thing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through you, Chair. Yes, I mean, obviously members are only able to consider what is before them at this moment in time, and the applicant has indicated that is their intention to carry on with the golf business. Obviously, that things may change in the future, but ultimately, any proposals that do come forward in the future would be considered against, national planning policy at that time. And as you say, quite correctly, it isn't located in the Greenbelt, where there is a presumption against inappropriate development, and what is allowed in the Greenbelt is very constrained and is set out in national planning policy. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that.
Okay, any more comments? If not, I'll move to the vote. I've had a proposer. I don't think I've had it formally seconded. Would somebody formally second the officer recommendation, please?
I'll second it, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hargreaves. Any more comments from anybody? No, if not, nobody's spoken on the contrary. So if everybody's happy, I'll just assume that everybody's in favour of that recommendation, unless they speak now. The silence said it all. Alex, do you want to confirm?
Thank you, Chair. Members have approved the application for planning permission subject to conditions in the report.
Okay, thank you. Item 3B has been withdrawn. Item 3C, Exton Mills, Daubers Lane, Exton, pages 45 to 62, with an update on your addendum. Ian's going to present this item, and the recommendation is that reserve matters consent granted subject to conditions. I've no registered speakers, so over to you, Ian.
Thank you, Chair. The proposed development seeks reserve matters consent for the erection of 3 detached dwellings pursuant to an outline planning permission that was granted in 2018. This was for a self-build residential development comprising up to 8 detached dwellings with all matters reserved save for access. The application site is located in the Greenbelt at Exton between the River Yarrow to the south and Daubers Lane to the north, and was previously occupied by a large mill building which has since been demolished some years ago. Several applications for reserve matters consent have been granted since that time, and 2 dwellings have so far been developed on the site on the plots closest to Daubers Lane. The proposed dwellings will be large detached dwellings of a traditional design style, set back within the site on the part of the site adjacent to the river. They will be of a design and scale that are commensurate with the site and nearby dwellings, and are considered to be an appropriate design response in the context of the site and its surroundings. There'll be no unacceptable impacts on residential amenity as a result of the proposals, and adequate parking will be provided in line with the council's parking standards. It is therefore recommended that this reserve matters application is approved subject to conditions as set out in the report and on the addendum. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Over to you, councillors. Councillor G and Councillor Whitaker. Councillor G.
Thank you, Chair. Just getting back to the agenda. Yes, I personally don't have any problems because we have passed it a few years ago, and I walked down there this morning along this afternoon along the River Yarrow. The two houses have been built, very, very large ones, and there is down there for 6 if you look at the plans. My only concern is the walkway along the River Yarrow. Up to a couple of months ago, that walkway had deteriorated through the water running down from the building site, and it had caused great channels in the walkway, and it was I wouldn't say pollution, I wouldn't go as far as that, but debris from the building site would coming down there and going into the River Yarrow, and that did concern me. I went down today, as I said, and they have done the walk, the pathway now, and it is up to a substantial state for a country walk. It's very good. But and the other concern is, and I think he mentioned it in the addendum, is the closeness of the houses to the walkway. It does concern me that when you look at the plans, they seem very, very close to the path. Is there any way we can protect how close they are there? And is there any? I'm sure we put conditions on last time. I'm not quite sure, but I'm sure we put conditions on that they're responsible for that walkway and the upkeep of it. So I'd just like information of that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Ian, do you want to come back on that before I bring Councillor Whittaker in?
Yeah, sure, Chair. Yeah, sir, through you. We can feed back to the applicant in relation to the state of the pathway, because that was a condition of the outline consent that the footpath will be improved along there, and it may be that over time, as the site's been developed, there's been some runoff and it has taken the material away, so we can feed that back. In relation to the position of the houses, obviously the Environment Agency have commented that they don't want any development within 8 metres of the bank top of the river. The houses are certainly outside that zone, but what we don't have the details of are where fences and boundaries would be positioned. So that's one of the reasons for recommending the condition requiring the details of any boundary treatment to ensure that it doesn't fall within that 8 metre area. So that's the area that we're seeking to protect, and that the Environment Agency are stipulating where development can't take place. So there is a control to there is a way of controlling that through condition, and we would consult the Environment Agency on that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
can I just come back in? Can I just come back in very, very quickly? Yes, I've no problem with that. But the houses the 2 houses that have been built are very, very large houses, and the house, I presume the houses that they're going to build are going to be just as large as that. There's nothing we can do about it because we planned it, but it's just the impact of the size of them against the river. But I think it's something we have to live with. But so yes, I'm happy with the information I've been given.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Whittaker, then Councillor Boardman.
Thanks, Chair. Having read the comments from the Environment Agency, it doesn't give me a great deal of confidence in the applicant if they can't measure it correctly, as the Environment Agency says. It doesn't give me a great confidence in their ability to do anything. The conditions, the River Yarrow, the Environment Agency, I should have acknowledged at first that I'm chairman of Friends of the River Yarrow, and along that organisation, a voluntary organisation, spend a great deal of time cleaning up the River Yarrow and trying to make sure that fish can get right the way up to the passage, etc., further upstream. So the concerns I have is not just about the fencing, and Ian's talked about a condition which I hope will be agreed, but my other concern is about not just the surface water runoff, but the retention qualities of what they're proposing in terms of sewage, in terms of surface water runoff. Very large houses have got very large roofs. In periods of heavy rain, where is the water going to go? What I would be concerned about if there was no condition on that prevented any foul or noxious surface water getting into the river. That's the sort of thing that we have to be very careful with these days. So if Ian could tell me that there is some condition either on the original application, or if there isn't on that one, then I want to suggest a condition now.
Ian?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Obviously the way the site's been developed, the outline consent was granted to a developer who's taking care of the site infrastructure, and the plots are being sold off independently. So you've got a whole series of different developers building properties on there. Now, in relation to conditions around surface water, this Councillor Whitaker has referred back to the outline application, and that is where a condition was attached requiring a surface water scheme at that stage in 2018. And that did require details of water controls and other things amongst that. And that was submitted to the council in 2019 and was approved following consultation with the Environment Agency and the lead local flood authority. Now that set out the details of the surface water scheme, which was basically that water would be discharged into the surface water would be discharged into the river, but via an attenuation tank at a runoff rate equivalent to the Greenfield runoff rate, and that was accepted by the Environment Agency and the Flood Authority. So the scheme would have to be developed in line with what was agreed as part of that surface water drainage scheme. In relation to the foul water, there is a sewer, a foul water sewer that serves the existing cottages down at the bottom of the site, and as I understand it, the proposed dwellings would tap into that existing sewer for the foul water. I hope that covers it, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, can I come back, please?
Quickly, yeah.
Ian talked about, I'm grateful for the reassurance about the original conditions having been approved, but then he went on to say that these plots are being developed by individual developers. How confident are we that the individual developers will be made to comply with that general one, which was the original one? The second thing is about the foul. The second question is about the foul, which Ian alludes to. There's been talk recently about Environment Agency allowing foul sewage at certain circumstances. It's at a low level. There's a lot of runoff down there, as we've seen near Astley Park, etc. How confident are we that there won't be any foul discharge into the river? Because that would be disastrous for the wildlife, etc.
Ian, you want to come back?
Yes, thanks, Chair. I think we can be pretty confident that the foul water won't be discharged into the river because it is going into an existing sewer. Obviously, that's managed by United Utilities and the Environment Agency. You know, have certain controls over that, and so that shouldn't happen. I think we can be confident about that. In relation to whether these individual developers are aware of their obligations in relation to the original consent and what was agreed around surface water, I think probably the best thing to do would be to attach an informative to the decision notice explaining that, you know, their obligations in that regard, and reminding those developers about the conditions that we've got in place and the scheme that's been agreed for the site as a whole. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Right. Councillor Boardman and then Councillor Morwood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just take my hand down. It's in relation to the comments from with regards to river banking and the conditions that have been put forward. In our pack of information, we have a drawing which shows the 3 plots and the river, which is the proposed site layout drawing. And my concern is that if that drawing shows boundary fencing 8 metres away from the edge of the river, as what was stated, my concern is if it now goes from the top of the riverbank, which looks like where there's some strange little arrows basically pointing down towards water, it's going to be very, very close to these retaining walls that's shown on the drawings, which basically eliminates most of the gardens of plots 2 and 3. So I just want the planning officer to be mindful when the boundary details do come forward that it is an exact 8 metres from the top of that banking, because I think it would probably eliminate the majority of that rear garden. So that's my concern, and just hope it gets noted.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Morwood.
Well, thank you, Chair. It was a similar point I was about to make. It looked to me exactly that plots 2 and 3 are not going to have any gardens at all, so they may think to redesign the whole thing. And just coming back on Councillor G's point, is something we have to live with because of its size. Well, perhaps maybe next time we vote to have self-build, we might think about the size and so forth, because I'm perhaps a little bit unfamiliar with these ideas of self-build, and in my head I had individuals bringing in plans and designs for individual houses, and you've talked about individual developers, but in fact this is one person coming out with 3 houses, which presumably will then be sold all on. So it's not quite the idea of self-build that I had in my head at the start. So maybe next time around when we do these things, we can think a little bit more closely as to what's exactly going to happen. Thank you.
Okay. Ian, you wanted to come back?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just in relation to the scale of the development that's coming forward at this stage, really, and it goes back to the development that existed previously, and that was the mill. So obviously, previously there was a large building on the site with a significant amount of volume, which has given the development the opportunity to build quite spacious, they are quite large houses on the site. All that said, the volume of what's likely to be developed on the site at the end of the process is going to be a lot less than the volume of the mill that was there previously. So that's the basis on which the sort of the large dwellings have come forward, really. So I just wanted to explain that. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Whittaker, do you want to make another comment, or have you just not taken your hand down?
No, I wanted to make another comment. In relation to Councillor Boardman's comment. I want to make it clear that I'm more concerned about the environment of the river rather than the loss of somebody's back garden. The developer's got the options to rearrange the size of the house, the garden, etc., etc. They're individual plots, but we mustn't compromise the river or its environment, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor G.
Thank you, Chair. Just very, very quickly. I presume that any, as I said, is self-build. So I presume when these houses got designed in that, they will be coming back to the planning committee for approval on the design and of the houses, or am I misreading it?
Yeah.
Ian.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I mean, this is the design stage, so this is the sort of potentially the final stage for these plots, other than conditions that we might look to attach and that they would need to discharge. So there's not all the plots have come forward. It might be that they get a consent at this stage and come back with something else. But yes, potentially, if this reserve matters application is approved, then these are the details of the dwellings that would be allowed to be built on the site. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Boardman.
Thank you, Chair. It was just going back on Councillor Whitaker's comment. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I was actually looking to protect the riverbank. It wasn't to the detriment of losing the rear garden. I was more on the basis that they won't have a garden, and we may end up seeing this coming back because the house types on plots 2 and 3 may have to shrink because people aren't going to buy a 3,000 square foot house with no back garden whatsoever. So yeah, we may see this one again. Yeah.
Okay.
Chair, I'm happy to approve the officer's recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Will somebody second that, please?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Marwood. Oh,
sorry, I'm mute.
he did warn us about the clock, didn't he?
Chair, sorry, Chair, could I say, if we are approving this, subject to the conditions that Ian talked about?
Yeah. Yeah, just say subject to conditions. We were actually it is recommended that reserve matters consent is granted subject to the conditions. Okay, with everybody. Councillor Boardman, you've still got your hand up. Should you have?
Sorry, Madam Chair.
It's okay. Adele, you've got your hand up.
Yes, through you, Chair. I think the issue that Councillor Whitaker was referring to is the need to add an informative to the decision notice, referring back to the outline planning permission and the provisions of those conditions. So I think for the minutes, I think it would be helpful to include that in addition to the conditions is an informative to be added. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay, is everybody happy with that? I've got a proposer and a second. Does anybody wish to disagree with that course of action? If not, I will presume that we're at the end of the debate and that Alex can confirm our decision, please.
Thank you, Chair. Reserve matters have been approved by members subject to the conditions of the report and an amended condition in the addendum.
Yes, okay. Is that right? So item 4 is the appeals report, pages 63 to 64. You're asked to note that report. Somebody's got their hand up. Let me have a look. Councillor Boardman and then Adele.
I must apologise, Madam Chair. I was supposed to declare an interest at the beginning. I didn't realise this was on the agenda, so I apologise for that. But there is an interest on one of those appeal decisions.
Right. Okay, Adele.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just want to make you aware that we have received 3 new appeals. The one that I want to bring your attention to first is the one for the mucky pups, for the dog walking area, and just to make you aware that this will be considered by a informal hearing, the details of which have yet got to be confirmed, but I will let members know because I know some members, both in committee and local members, may be interested in attending to either speak or just to watch proceedings. So just bring that to your attention. And then we have 2 appeal decisions received that were both dismissed, and just to make you aware that number 27 Preston Road has implemented part of these works, so we do need to now review this from an enforcement perspective. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, right, so we note that report. I'm assuming the silence is saying that we do.
Noted.
Yep. Yes, happy to note
Noted,
that.
Chair.
Thank you very much. I've no urgent business, so that's it. ICT, can you please stop the recording?
Thank you. Good evening, all. I'll phone you back, Alan, shortly.